Hello, everyone. Welcome to our hot sauce releases. We will go ahead and get started. So today we're going to be talking about Sauce Visual. This is a really amazing product that we've been working on, Konrad and his team here at Sauce Labs, and really developing pretty significantly over the last year. So today we're going to be talking specifically about sort of preparing for the big holiday season rush, preparing your applications, your websites for peak traffic during the holiday season, and leveraging Sauce Visual to make sure you're building and releasing amazing digital experiences. We are going to be talking a little bit about the roadmap and what's kind of in store for what's coming up next with Sauce Visual. Okay, we'll do really quick introductions and then we'll get into the agenda and get started. So as I said, I'm Jenna. I'm a product marketing manager here at Sauce Labs, have been here for about a year and a half, and I'm located in the San Francisco Bay Area. And Konrad, you want to do a quick intro?
Hey, my name is Konrad, and I have been working for Sourceless since I remember. I have been working on multiple products, including Visual, that I would love to talk today about. But I have been working on other parts on Source. You might be familiar with me on the error reporting side, or for example, our testing infrastructure.
There you
So
go.
nice to see you today.
Awesome. Thank you, Konrad. Okay. So Konrad is going to share so many amazing things about what him and his team have been working on with our roadmap. We have some introductions. We want to talk a little bit today about, something that probably a lot of us in this room know and acknowledge, right? That digital experiences are really crucial to retaining your customers, driving revenue. We're going to talk about UI testing, why it's so important, yet it can be difficult. And so we want to talk a little bit about how Sauce Visual can help, and then what's new, what's on the roadmap. Okay, so before we get into the content, we want to make sure that we're delivering the information that's really relevant to you all. So we're going to put a quick poll up. Check, who from the attendees are using Sauce Visual, and if you're not using Sauce Visual for your UI testing, how are you currently performing your UI tests? Okay, so we have some attendees here using other tools, or they're manually testing their UI. That is an interesting spread. Okay, cool. So that gives us a little bit of context for how we can share information that's really relevant for today's session. Okay, so going to start off acknowledging something that probably everyone in this room is very well aware of, right? That every digital experience matters. Whether you are, whether you have a mobile app or you are building experiences on a mobile browser, we know that a lot of consumers are moving to their mobile devices and more frequently engaging with brands and businesses on their mobile application or on their mobile devices, right? And so building a really engaging digital experience on mobile is crucial. We see some stats here, right, that there's been an increase in mobile app downloads, 275 billion downloads across the globe, and I think it was 2023. We did the math on that. I think it's like 30 something downloads per person that owns a mobile device. That's crazy, right? And so something really interesting about this, though, that you might not have known is that about 50% of consumers report that they will abandon a mobile app or website if they have a negative experience, just 3 to 4 experiences. And so, consumers are very fickle. They will move on to the next option if they aren't able to click or engage, or something is a little bit off in their experience that's preventing them from being able to operate their app or their website, or maybe an app crashes. Just 3 to 4 of those experiences and consumers report to go and move on to the competition. This is really important right now because we're getting into the holiday season. And so for anyone that might be in retail or travel, that a big portion, a significant portion of revenue is generated during this time. There's peak traffic, more users are engaging to, buy things and book trips and whatnot. And if your digital experience is broken, you could be risking revenue. You could be risking customers churning, and it's really could be concerning. Konrad, I see you coming.
You don't know how often it's happening to me. It's like Uh, Almost every day, and I'm always surprised that my wife wants me to buy something to our house or for our son, and then I notice I cannot buy simple things,
Yeah.
or I cannot just order something that I would love to order. Instead of choosing platform X, I just need to go to another platform to
Yep.
find something that I'm looking for. This experience for me, at least, is critical. I also don't like when I feel like, oh, website doesn't look like it should. Like, for example, I don't know where is the button that should supposed to be on the top right corner, but it isn't.
Yep. I
Oh,
think you notice that and you think we have something that can help, right? But
I'm
I think
I'm not talking only about, for example, from our product perspective, but I'm also preparing for the hot season also for our house. And it looks like I cannot buy what I'm looking for.
there you go. It's extremely frustrating. And so what is the response from teams like Konrad? It's let's just do more testing, right? 75% of teams are saying they're going to increase their testing, they're ramping up their efforts to prevent churn and the negative experiences that Conrad's talking about. So, okay, it's just that easy. Let's just test more. Yeah, it's not always that easy. There's not always time. It's difficult with all of the different devices and browsers and OS combinations. And teams are working on so many different projects and priorities. So it's not just that easy to say, let's just test more, right? Especially when we're thinking about UI testing, right? It's a piece of the larger software development lifecycle and testing process. And a lot of customers and a lot of businesses that we talk to, they might just say like, oh, let's just use functional testing to test these experiences, like on a website trying to find the button that isn't there that Conrad just talked about. But functional tests aren't really accurate, and they're not really meant to be finding inconsistencies across a UI experience, right? Functional tests are unreliable because they're focusing on validating the function of something, right? That you're able to accomplish X, Y, and Z and get an outcome, right? And so UI testing, it's really meant to allow you to test if a page is looking the way you expect it should. If you're able to engage and find the button and the drop down and be able to engage with the website in a proper way, or a mobile app. And so that's why, doing that sort of UI testing can be difficult. And then second, a lot of businesses use separate solutions for their testing infrastructure, for different types of testing they're doing, for their visual testing. And that's inefficient. And it really is a waste of time and money because we find that users are relying on these different vendors and infrastructure, and it leads to just inefficiency and switching back and forth, and it increased costs and time. And so this is what we hear about why it's just not that easy to say, let's just test more. We would love to hear from you all about what are the challenges you're facing with your current visual testing process, testing your UI. We acknowledged a couple in the previous slide. We want to hear from you. Conrad, what do you think?
yeah, I see. Managing UI across the devices and browsers makes a lot of frustration. Without a proper automation and proper knowledge about this, it's hard to manage properly UI across multiple or across matrix of multiple options that you can
Yep.
choose in the market. So back to my example, when I couldn't order something that I wanted to order, yeah, the button was invisible. And
Mm,
if I could have a UI test across, for example, devices, or for example, I think it might be also related to my Android version, by the way, because I also
mm,
noticed that I recently upgraded to the latest version of Android. So I'm not sure if, for example, someone who wrote a test or someone who prepared a functional test, let's say that this way, also cover something that could happen in the latest version of Android.
yep.
For me, mobile devices are also super important because I have mobile device always with me. So
Always.
yeah, for me, it's critical to make sure that, for example, it works on the most important mobile devices for the market.
Okay, so before we get into our roadmap, of course, for those that maybe are unfamiliar with Sauce Visual is the solution that Konrad and his team has built for a comprehensive UI testing solution that really is efficient. It's scaling, it's easy to use, and you get really quick results because of the amazing way that Konrad and team have built it. It's leveraging our infrastructure here at Sauce Labs, right? We have a comprehensive, wide, big range of virtual and real devices that Sauce Visual runs on top of. And so the infrastructure is very scalable, and you have that access to infrastructure plus UI testing tools, along with functional and different types of testing, all in one centralized platform. And then lastly, all the amazing features, all the things that you need to really effectively execute your visual UI tests without the high price, right? We have a great package, a great part of our platform that Sauce Visual just sits right on top of, and it's really easy to run your tests, to give access to the people on your team that are wanting to run these tests, and to really be able to create and release amazing software every single time. So that is, I don't know if you put this little GIF together, Konrad, but I think it's kind of
No,
cool showing showing how
I
easy.
didn't. However, I'm satisfied every time when I see
Yeah,
this because I really like removing code that I can replace with one line of code and
right?
just make sure that everything works, or even it works better with 10,000 lines that I had in my function, in my
Yep.
code.
Yep.
It's so satisfied.
It's so satisfying, right? It's just, and it's really meant to illustrate, right, how easy it is to set up and use Sauce Visual, replacing all of these lines of code with a single line to be able to run your visual tests. So Konrad is going to give us a demo of some of our new features. We're going to go over the roadmap, but again, for those that are maybe unfamiliar with the product, or maybe you haven't checked in on the newest what we have with Sauce Visual right now, just a reminder that Sauce Visual works on all browsers, operating systems, versions. We have native mobile app support, which we're going to demo here today. We're really excited to GA that very soon. Again, it's built on Sauce Labs infrastructure, right? And so you're running your tests with Sauce Visual in Sauce Labs data centers, which means the process is streamlined, it's automated, right? You don't have to go through this process of taking screenshots locally and then uploading them, right? It all happens with Sauce Visual in our platform and on our infrastructure.
And even
Framework.
more, everything that you can get from our platform from Source Labs, you can get for free. So, for example,
Yep.
if you are thinking about emulators, simulators, or real devices that are available in our platform, everything is for you to use here with Visual Tests. So
Yep.
it's only up to you how you want to run your tests.
And we have some new framework support here that we have listed for those that might know about Sauce Visual, but weren't aware of the latest releases, right? We have, we offer a lot of flexibility and extensibility to our users. And then lastly, API friendly in terms of being able to upload baseline snapshots, diffs. You have the access to all of these great tools, as well as workflow CLI. Konrad, can you give us a quick overview of, I know we just talked about workflow CLI right before this call.
Oh, so I just want to be sure that every time when a change that shouldn't happen in my application will be detected, I will have a clear and obvious process for me. So I, as a developer, I really like using, for example, GitHub Actions. We are using, for example, GitLab's containers just to be sure that, for example, every time when we are building our application, we have a step that validates our application. By using our CLI, we can, for example, verify if every kind of visual check passed, and if it didn't, then someone needs to do something, like, for example, accept a new baseline, or,
Yep.
for example, reject a visual comparison. By doing that, I don't need to always repeat, for example, my whole CI/CD pipeline. I can only redo one step in the pipeline, and once everything is accepted, every kind of step that is later can be executed just after visual check and visual comparison.
Amazing. So that's a high level overview of just, how Sauce Visual works, some of the ways that you can leverage the solution. And now for the most exciting part of the session, in my opinion, are the roadmap, what's new from Sauce Visual. And I'm going to pass it over to Konrad, although, he's already been sharing a lot of really helpful information with us so far. And we're going to go into some roadmap items and some demos.
Okay, cool. So what should we talk about today? So today I prepared for you two really important and hot topics for our team. The first one is the playwright support. So I'm also a tester, and I want to be sure that my code works every time when I run my application build. I just want to check anyone of you is using Playwright. If you are a Playwright user, I think this is something that you should be really interested in. So overall, we are extending our offer into other platforms and other frameworks. Playwright is one of the really important frameworks for us, since we know how our customers, how our users want to use Playwright support. So we're happy to announce that starting September, the Playwright support is fully available for all our customers. It's generally available in all regions. It's all for you to use with Sauce Visual. Can we move forward?
Yeah, I also just want to acknowledge that it's something that we talk about a lot with Sauce Labs as a platform, is really the flexibility and giving developers the choice to be able to work with the frameworks and the languages that they know and love and like using. And so as we introduce more support for frameworks and languages, it's really in an effort to give that flexibility to our developers that are working on the Sauce Labs platform. And Konrad and team are really focusing on this to be able to expand into other frameworks as well. And so it's just a constant iteration and to give more flexibility and support. So I think this is huge. Okay, back to you, Konrad.
And the second one is native mobile support for Appium application. This is a really exciting feature for us because we are mobile first company. We're providing great infrastructure for mobile testing purposes. You can choose a real device cloud to run tests on real devices available in our cloud. You can always test against, for example, emulators, simulators to do any kind of test that you can imagine in your application. And this was just a matter of time when we can fully integrate also with our mobile offering. So right now we are in the beta phase for native mobile support with Appium. If you're also a user of the XUI test or Espresso and you are looking for support for those frameworks, don't worry, this is something that is coming really soon. So you can even see our beta version of, for example, some frameworks really, really soon. However, for us, it was a really big effort to bring the experience that we showed you on the web in mobile. So every kind of feature that you are familiar with from web, like for example, full page screenshot support, like for example, clip to element support, like for example, our ignore region system, everything is now available on mobile. And no matter what is your testing strategy, no matter if you are using, for example, real devices or virtual devices, we are already available for you for your native visual tests. So I would love to show you how it looks like in practice. For the demo purpose, I would love to focus on how it looks in practice. Okay, cool. I hope you can see my screen. So I would love to start first with the page that, for example, you can get started with. Of course, in our docs, you can learn more about our visual testing and about, for example, our integration in strategy. However, in this stage, I would like to point out that everything that you will see here right now is open source. And you can even pull our code, start playing with it, see how are we doing everything in practice. And if you have any idea, or for example, if you would like to, for example, modify anything for your use cases or for your purposes, you can learn a lot from our examples. So please do not hesitate to also see how it looks like from the coding perspective. And in the end, I really want to see everything in practice. So if you would like to see how it works in practice, how to use, for example, SDKs that I'm talking about, everything is in our Visual Examples repository. So in our example repositories, you can find, for example, everything that is related to your favorite programming language, or, for example, the testing platform that you are using. So if you are a C# or Python expert, this is the place where you can find, for example, cool examples and learn how to do visual testing with us. So by doing that, you can, for example, explore our API, or even, for example, see how we're making an abstraction over, for example, element on the HTML website, or, for example, on the native mobile application. Just in case, I already asked a question about the Playwright support. However, if you can also write answer me a question, what programming language are you using for visual testing? It will be also great. So feel free to share with me your programming languages and everything that you are using for your testing, for your tests. In this demo, I would like to focus on WDIO and my Android application. Why? I'm Android power user, and I really like to do a really advanced stuff on Android. So that's why I picked for today's demo WDIO Android application, and I will use my Visual Examples repository for demo purposes. So just before the demo, I cloned my application. I cloned my example repository, and this is how it looks like. I hope you can see my Visual Studio Code. I'm navigating right now to WDIO Android application example, and I'm here. Two of the most important files for me is to understand how to run the example. And this is why I open on the right my README file. And on the left, I would love to see how we are doing visual tests, how we are testing our application. So for testing purposes, I'm using also Sauce Labs demo application that is modified for visual specific use cases. And the application is already available in the app directory. So I don't need to compile the application, or I don't even need to know how to, for example, build the application that I want to use. And what I need to do is just to follow up some steps. And the most important steps for you are definitely setting the username and access key in your environment variables. So once you connect to Sauce Labs, you can see your username and access key on the top right corner. Also, if you are, for example, user from a different region, it's also worth changing your region, for example, to EU, like I have. In the end, I also need to upload my application to Sauce Labs. My README file also covered this for me because it also tells me how to do that quickly. And I need to also export the app field. And once I do export the app file ID, I can start using and start testing my visual my application. So I already ran this application before the demo, and because sometimes the test takes so much time, let's see how it looks like in practice. So in practice, once I run my application, this is the view that I see inside the source visual. The build that you see has a name source demo test. And I also see that, for example, I have one suite name, which is Android native app. And for each test that I have here, I have a test name. And how it looks like in practice. When I open the view, I see that I have a single view. I have a single image. And this image tells me how it looks like in practice when I do a visual check. And this is my baseline, which means that I will use this image to start comparing my new changes against it. So this is something that I already accepted by clicking OK. I also can compare my image with the baseline that I already have. And this is the baseline that I accepted earlier. So in this view, I can accept my new changes and make sure that the new application view is correct. I can do that for everything, or if I'm sure that, for example, my application is definitely fully ready, I can also accept everything from the menu. And back to our demo, we have also an option to mess up with our application. This is why we have a second command. Once I run the second command, the application will generate for me a new view. And right now, when I start comparing, for example, catalog fragment, it looks like something is wrong. Something definitely is odd. Definitely those images that I see in the visual comparison doesn't match, or I don't expect them, which means that, for example, while I was changing my application, for example, maybe I changed the way how I'm fetching images from my web service. This already tells me that, for example, something is wrong with my application, and this is definitely not something that should be accepted. However, give it a try. We can also go by changes that are available in, for example, our visual comparison. And I see that I detected a lot of them. Jenna, I think this is not the application that we can release to production. So I'm sorry, I will reject this change. We can follow up after this discussion about changes to my demo app, how to fix that. How about the second example? In the app catalog, for me, this is even more interesting because as once again, I see a lot of things are happening inside my visual comparison. However, I also see that, for example, some things like, for example, prices might change over the time, and we don't have a control on this on the test. So maybe it's fine to also ignore them every time when I'm doing a visual comparison. So that's why, from the coding perspective, we can also declare and ignore regions. So we can define, for example, what can be ignored or what elements can be ignored during the visual comparison. And with this feature, we have even more control because we can, for example, declare that I would be really interested in only, for example, style changes. And I don't care if, for example, the text value has changed. So for example, I don't care if, for example, the date has changed, but if, for example, the date is now bolded instead of with my previous font, then this is something that I would like to detect. So with these changes, I see that, for example, I could easily and quickly ignore some changes. So, for example, I'm letting you know that those might be expected changes. And even if I ignored a lot of elements like prices, I still see at least 3 visual changes that gives me an impression that this application is not ready for production use case. Jenna, I'm sorry, I'm also rejecting this one. Okay, cool. However, this one looks correct, and we didn't detect any change. I'm not sure if you also noticed that this change is already accepted because of my baseline. So if we didn't detect any change, and we already know that this is something that you already accepted, I'm not sure if you notice. However, it's already accepted. So Jenna, you don't need to fix the startup page. It's fine.
Oh, good. Finally.
However, I also added one more check today, earlier today, to verify if the full page screenshot or how my application works when I take a full page screenshot. I'm not sure, Jenna, if you notice, however, sometimes our application is flaky when we are scrolling the application and some kind of weird things are happening there. And I was right about this because once again, I detect the same change that I detected in my first page with the new different images that we are pulling from a web server. That's not good. However, please look at the full page screenshot that we generated for this use case. As you can see, I need to scroll multiple times to see the full content of my application. So this is a nice way for me to compare how my application looks like from the top to the bottom.
Mhm.
If something is outside, for example, my display, the full page screenshot support can allows me to spot those changes and easily find them in the visual comparison. Besides, or actually, I really love comparing changes side by side. However, something that I really like also doing on our UI is just to overlay our changes. And we quickly also see that how many things has changed in our visual comparison. Sorry, Jenna, this also will be rejected by me.
That's
We
understandable.
need, we need to fix that. Okay, cool. So everything that you saw here was tested on my Android device running on the real device cloud. The testing code you can find in our visual example repository. Feel free to use it for any kind of purposes. So if you are looking for any kind of features that I covered today, like for example, full page screenshot, like for example, crop to element, like for example, something that you might not even expect exists on, for example, mobile devices, like for example, DOM diffing comparison. I think our solution is the way to go for you. That's
Amazing.
everything. That's everything for the demo today. Thank you, Jenna. And we need to talk about
Konrad.
our app changes based on our visual tests. Thank you.
So the last item that we have on the roadmap that we want to talk about today is visual usage analytics. So for those of you that are Sauce Labs customers, you might know about our usage analytics for VDC and real devices. And so now we are expanding that usage insights and data into our Sauce Visual product. And so you'll be able to, by logging into the Sauce Labs UI, get an overview of the snapshots that you're taking. You can filter by different teams and throughout your organization. You can expand timeframes, kind of zoom in, zoom out, and be able to uncover some trends and really get a consistent assessment of your usage. So that is something that is coming out in November, and you will be able to have more visibility and insight into your visual usage. I just really wanted to highlight, I love hearing from customers about how they're using our solutions. And so I'm just going to give a quick overview really quick of one of our beta customers, Hootsuite, who is using Sauce Visual, and they participated in the visual for native mobile beta that we are going through right now. So Hootsuite's a really amazing customer of ours. And for those of you that don't know who Hootsuite is, they are a social media management platform, one of the biggest and most reliable solutions in their space. And they help millions of users and thousands of enterprise customers to manage their social media presence, right? And so Hootsuite, they were initially struggling a little bit years and years ago with their testing processes, specifically with their UI validation, right? The process that they were using prior to Sauce Visual was tedious and manual, and one of our champions there actually told us how they were relying on this sort of homegrown solution that an engineer built. They left Hootsuite, and then no one knew how their UI testing was happening. Like it was, they didn't really know what was going on. And so that really resulted in an inefficient process and risks of unidentified UI bugs. Our champion actually told us about this story where they had a big release. Again, this was many, many years ago, a big release, and their CEO actually found a bug in their UI. So with Hootsuite, you have these little check boxes on the social media platforms that you're publishing on, right? In their newest release, they missed the little checkbox. It wasn't there. It's so small. It probably, was missed in the code or to the eye of the tester, and their CEO discovered it. That was bad, right? It was a really important function of their product, and that's when they realized we need a better UI testing solution. So they came to Sauce Labs. They're leveraging not only Sauce Labs platform infrastructure, but they're leveraging visual testing as a solution within our platform, and it really made UI testing easier for them. The setup, the execution, the integration into their CI/CD, the scalable infrastructure. This all made it so that Hootsuite could do all of the testing very seamlessly in one centralized place. And they're now able to have a lot more confidence in the way that they release new applications, new versions of their apps and their websites to their customers. And so you can see here a couple examples of some of the results that they're experiencing, decrease in bugs, able to release faster, freed up engineering time to focus on more innovative and time consuming or tasks that are really requiring more attention. So one of my favorite things that our champion said to us was that Sauce Visual is now their go-to for visual testing and broader quality software quality solution. It lets them handle everything that they need to do in the cloud on one centralized platform. So just a quick example of a great customer like Hootsuite and what they're doing with Sauce Labs and with Sauce Visual today. So we're going to take some questions. Konrad, I'm going to hand over some of these to you. So one of the questions we got was, what are some common visual bugs that functional tests might miss? Okay, we kind of
Oh,
talked about this in the beginning, but
yeah, but this is interesting based on everything that I said about my shopping experience. The button should be there. I want to continue shopping. I want to buy my buy things that I just put.
yep,
So this is not something that we can easily cover during the functional test, because on functional tests we are focusing on functions. We are
yep,
focusing on what is expected output of something. Visual tests, I think, could easily detect, for example, this change in my latest Android version. So I think that's or at least this is something that I can point out quite easily based on everything that I experienced recently.
yep,
However, based on our customers' experience, we also noticed that, for example, quite often some text that shouldn't appearing on the website. So,
mm,
for example, even recently, we talked with the customer who noticed that they didn't even know how long they have a text about missing element IED on the bottom of their page. It was really hidden in the website footer. However, it was visible. And without our solution, it was tracked to detect that. Okay, cool. You can ask me a question, how important is to change this behavior, or how important is to fix this problem. However, in the end, you might experience different problems, or much more important, like, for example, an available button, or, for example, the label might be not on the top right corner, but rather in the middle of the website.
yeah.
And I would prefer just to have a safe release. I'm not sure what you think about this.
Yeah, I mean that it kind of ruins the experience if there's something in the middle of the screen that's blocking something else that's supposed to be there, or even as the example with Hootsuite, right? That little check
Mhm.
mark is a very crucial functionality of their app. If you can't see the check mark, you don't know which social media platforms that you are apparently posting on. It's crucial. It's so small and it might be missed. And maybe it doesn't, it's not a clickable button, but it is a visual aspect of the UI that is very important. And I think it's a great example.
Right now, we are also talking about examples when, for example, okay, I can go to another shop and buy something. However, I also want to share with you experience of my friend Dave, who stuck on the airport because he couldn't buy a ticket for the next airplane. So
Okay.
this is, for example, even worse experience for the customer. You know how mad he was because of that?
Oh, I'm
He's
scared to
he's
ask.
yeah, he was. He was. Let's simply say that without details. However, this is another visual example that can ruin your user experience. And then, for example, I'm checking Google stars of the application, Google opinions about the application, and it's not great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you go into like App Store ratings or Google,
Exactly.
yeah, It's not great. Well, we have a couple more. I see that we're just on time here. We had a couple more questions come in about integrating Visual with CI/CD pipelines and workflows. We would love to talk with you more, anyone who has further questions about Sauce Visual. So please leverage these links here. We have QR codes here to scan to book time with experts. Might be Konrad, might be one of our other Sauce Visual experts. And we want to help you create the best digital experiences and user experiences for the people that are engaging with your websites and your mobile apps. So reach out to us, ask your questions. As I said, as Konrad said, he's always, him and his team, willing to answer and take feedback. And so that wraps us up today. Thank you everyone for joining. Konrad, thanks for giving us a demo. Really appreciate everyone's time here today, and we hope to hear from you all soon.
Thank
Thanks
you,
so
Jenna,
much.
for everything. Thank you for your time. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.